My name is Dismas. Not a familiar name. It means darkness. For some, in our language, it means sunset. The reading that you just had did not mention me by name. Some of the texts don't even mention me at all. But that's okay. I've had kind of a rough life. You know, I was raised in a good family. Things were good at home. But I walked away from it. Like so many in my age, we walk away from what is good because we think we know better. I couldn't have imagined what I was going to experience out on the street. I saw so much. Most of it I wish I could forget. But I saw so much to the point where I became one with the street. I wonder why. I wonder why I chose that. There were events in my life where I would beg just to get enough to eat. And if I couldn't beg and get it, I stole it. And if I couldn't stole it, I beat people up to rob them. But I would get it, and I was part of the street. Throughout my time on the street, I met a lot of interesting people. Most of them I didn't want to have anything to do with. But there was one. He was a teacher. He would speak words that would mesmerize the crowd. I didn't know who he was. We just heard him called the teacher. He would touch people and they would be healed. He would speak and they would be in awe. I wanted to get closer. There were people that would crowd around and just try to even touch the hem of his garments. I just wanted to be close enough to hear him. Not too close, because there were people following him and, well, I didn't want to get caught. Following him, or maybe they would recognize me as the one on the street who would rob them, steal from them, beat them up. Besides, this life of this teacher was not me. He spoke of things that I never understood. That they were things, well, it was tough for me to imagine life as the teacher would talk. So I backed away. One day I was just walking along the back alley and I was scraping for something to eat out of the trash that was in the alley. And as my eyes would look up, I would see a man. It was very obvious he was of great wealth. And he was carrying this beautiful box, and I knew that that would have something in it of great value. So I thought I would make an appearance. And I went to him and I said, "Sir, may I have some money so I may buy something to eat?" He shooed me away. I said, "Sir, you don't understand. I need something to eat, please. Could you give me some money so I could buy something?" He turned and he looked at me and he snarled and he said, "Get away!" As soon as he said that, it snapped inside my head. I don't know what it was, whether it was greed or what, but I knew that he was going to get it. He turned and he took a step or two away, and I came up behind him and I hit him upside the head and I grabbed the box and we wrestled with it. And as we wrestled, the box came in my hand and it went around and it hit him in the head. He dropped to his knees. There was blood. I didn't care. I had the box. And I turned and I ran down the street just to run into two guards that were out looking for people like me. They grabbed me. They took me to jail. They took me before the judge. And they said, "We caught this man in the act of brutally beating someone and stealing their very possessions." The judge asked if there was anyone that would speak on my behalf. There was none. So the judge had no choice but to sentence me guilty and send me to jail. As I got to jail, I heard the jailers talking, and they said, "You know, that guy that they just brought in here, that Dismas, that man that he hit with the box and knocked to the ground was killed." I knew it was over at that point. I was street smart. I wasn't book smart, but I knew an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and a life for a life. I knew that I would have to pay the price. I knew that I would be sentenced to death. Wow. I didn't expect that. But as I was there, I could hear the commotion out on the streets, and out on the streets I could hear the talk, and I knew there was something bigger than me going on. I found out that they had arrested this teacher and had taken him in, and they asked anyone to stand and speak on his behalf. And just like me, no one spoke. No one spoke up. People would stand and they would give testimony, and it was contradictory. But it didn't matter, because it seemed as though this man was condemned to die before he even got in front of the judge. A day later, it was death day. It was a day when I would die. They came and got me. They weren't very gentle. They grabbed me, they threw me out of the cell. They took this log and put it on my shoulders and made me carry what I would soon be nailed to and be killed. I heard there were two others. Two others that were going to be with me. One was someone just like me. He had beaten people up. He had stolen from them. He had done everything imaginable, including kill people. And then there was the teacher. The teacher. I didn't understand. I couldn't quite understand what was going on. But as we carried our crosses to the hill, things became a blur. I didn't quite understand what was going on, but it was almost like a fog had encompassed me. And I wondered if I would ever regain consciousness. They got us to the place that they called Golgotha. We arrived. They strung us up on the cross. This other criminal like me and the teacher. Wasn't very pretty. It was a very brutal way to die. But there was something that was even more painful than the physical pain, and that was the emotional strain that was put on us because we could hear people shouting at us, screaming at us. They wanted us dead. I looked over at the teacher. I looked over at the other criminal. And I realized they weren't screaming at me. They were screaming about the teacher. That the teacher should be the one that be put to death. The teacher, as blood poured off of his head and off of his body, he stood there, or he was nailed there on the cross, and he looked up to heaven and he said, "Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing." I knew what they were doing. They were killing all three of us. I get that. But this teacher was calling on someone greater than he to forgive them. I don't know if this other power had heard that prayer or that cry or whatever it was. But I do know that the other criminal, I looked at him and he said, "You said you were the Messiah. Why don't you get down off of that cross?" And by the way, when you're getting down off the cross, take us with you. That's when I snapped. That's when I became so appalled I could not take it anymore. I looked at the other criminal and I said, "How dare you? We are getting what we deserve, and this man is innocent, and you're calling for him to save you?" At that moment, I thought the only people that I could focus on was myself and the teacher. The teacher heard the words. He looked at me, and I looked back, and I said, "Teacher, remember me when you come into your kingdom." I'm not sure it would cause me to say it, but I knew that there was something different about this man than there was about me. I said, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." I'm sure it was just a moment or two. I'm sure it was just a few seconds. But it seemed like an eternity. The teacher looked at me and he said, "Friend, today you will be with me in paradise." paradise. Not sure what that is. I don't know what this paradise is, but the one thing I did know was the fact that he said I would be with him. I hadn't been claimed and wanted to be with anyone since I left home. You will be with me. Those words transformed me, even while I hung there dying. I knew something was different. I knew that I had been transformed, but I knew most of all that there was someone who would be with me. And I hadn't felt that in a long, long time. He wants to be with me.